There has never been, nor will there ever be, anybody that will have his perspective, that has played so many roles in the National Football League. He was a divisive figure in many ways. He rubbed some people the wrong way. But I can tell you that to sit in a room with Al Davis and talk football was unlike anything I had ever done before, because he had a perspective from a coach's perspective, from the owners, from a commissioner's, from a league-wide. And it was amazing to sit in a room and talk with him. I understand the issues that people had with him, but I also know as a pure fan of the game, he was something special.
The team with which he was synonymous went to Houston today, and Al, the Raiders beat the Texans 25-20.
I don't know that anybody knew what to expect from that game. One of the last major decisions Davis had to make was a new head coach. He fired Tom Cable after an 8-8 year, which was their best year in a number of seasons last year, and went with a guy named Hugh Jackson. And we should all begin to remember the name Hugh, H-U-E, short for Huey Jackson, because we got to know him in Oakland. We did a preseason game. This guy has it together. He's 45 years old, first head coaching job for him. That team is playing very hard for him. He made a great call on a fake punt in the middle of the fourth quarter today that worked. They intercepted a pass at the end of the game, and a very dramatic win in Houston today for the Raiders.
Charles, you spent the first 8 years of your career as an Oakland Raider. What will be your lasting memory of the man who drafted you, Al Davis?
Well, Al Davis was a guy that I knew at all times had my back. And I think you know that from all the older guys that he had around him. He took care of his guys.
Well, back in 1980 as a senior at Villanova, I had missed a couple of games because of, let's say, an off-campus misunderstanding. Well, for some teams, I'm sure that might have been a red flag. But for the Raiders and Al Davis, let's just say it was less of a concern. And going from Villanova, where there was a priest on every floor, to the Raiders locker room was, needless to say, a culture shock. And the one thing that became very apparent immediately was that the Raiders' mindset and the mystique of that football team was defined by one man, Al Davis. He was omnipresent, and being a Raider was all about one thing, winning. It was something Al Davis was consumed by 24/7. And as a player, you knew that there wasn't anything he wouldn't do to put you in the best possible position to succeed. You were now part of a team, an organization that was an island unto itself. Putting on that helmet meant something to generations of players. And if you weren't part of it, you were the enemy. In many ways, it was the Ellis Island of the NFL. Players from schools like Texas A&I, Colgate, and Maryland Eastern Shore, or players that had been written off as done. And yes, some players with checkered pasts. But regardless of where you were from or what had happened in your past, once you put on that helmet, you were a Raider. And there was only one thing expected of you, and that was to play, and play to win. There are many from this generation who will judge Al Davis by the last 10-plus years, by his many legal battles with the league. What I would want today's generation to know is that yesterday the NFL lost a Titan, a man who more than any other helped shape the league in the game that you see played today. He was an AFL maverick, forcing the NFL-AFL merger as commissioner, successful owner and coach with the Raiders, winning 3 Super Bowl titles and an AFL championship. He's also a pioneer, hiring the league's first modern-era African-American head coach in Art Shell, and also the league's first Latino head coach in Tom Flores. Yesterday, Al Davis lost the one battle he knew he could never win, the battle with time. There's never been anyone like him, and I'm confident in saying there will never be anyone like him in the future.